Ano-ano ang mga bagay na dapat nating siguraduhin sa low carb and fasting? For our Tanungan Thursday episode, for our LCF Lifestyle Talk with yours truly, Diet Doctora Dr. Josephine Grace Rohatan. Magandang tanghali po sa lahat. And para sa mga merong mga tanong sa ating low carb and fasting lifestyle, you are free to put them in the comment section and we will try to answer them. But in general, merong mga common concerns ang mga tao before they start doing low carb and fasting, and titingnan natin how we can address them. So number one sa mga question is, of course, is it safe? Safe po ba ang low carb? At sa mga nagtatanong, safe po ba ang low carb sa mga bata, sa matatanda, sa merong sakit, sa merong diabetes, breastfeeding, or even pregnant women? The answer is yes. Generally, low carb is safe for everyone because kung titingnan nga natin, yung ating evolution as humans, sanay tayo na kumakain lang ng puro karne, meat, and gulay. Okay? Bakit hindi parte ang kanin and bread sa ating natural human foods? It's because yung agricultural revolution, yung pagtatanim in farming grains like rice, mais, yung mga wheat, yung kinukunan natin ng flour sa ating mga breads, those are just newer development. Nagko-compose na yan ng about 1 to 2% of our existence as humans. So the last 98% ng ating pamumuhay sa mundo, we are actually not used into eating those bread, pasta, rice sa ating pagkain. That's why yung ating katawan is not really built to eat those every single day. So ano yung safe low carb? You can check out our hashtag JGC Rojo Food List at makikita nyo dyan yung iba't ibang mga pagkain that are very natural. To sum it up, very basic meat. So pork, you can have chicken, you can have beef, kambing, and lamb. So all of those, kalabaw meat. So all of those are meat. Seafood. So you can have shellfishes, you can have fish, you can have prawns, crabs. All of those are okay with low carb. And we also have eggs. Sinaprate natin yung eggs kasi hindi pa siya pure meat, no? But it's actually composed of basically the same thing, healthy fats and healthy proteins. And of course, pang-apat would be vegetables. So green leafy vegetables and the vegetables that are low carb, yung hindi starchy vegetables. And for us Filipinos, I think one thing that we need to really change in our mindset is that the root crops are not really vegetables. They are starch. 2 weeks ago, we went to Negros Oriental and yung isang restaurant doon, I was amazed na yung sa menu nila, you can make your own like soup ba yun or certain dish na pwede mong i-mix and match. And how they label things and mixing and matching would be protein, starch, and soup, I think. The soup base you can choose. But for the proteins, dun nilagay nila yung mga karne or seafood, whatever you want to choose. And they specified on the starch. So sila mismo, they already identified that starch is really different. It's different from vegetables. So yung mga common starch ay kailangan natin i-avoid. Ano ang starch? Starch is a carbohydrate, complex carbohydrate na kapag kinain natin, kinonsumo natin, it can be broken down into glucose. So, ang always nating ginagawa example, if yung glucose, yung blood sugar, yung nakakapagpataas ng ating level of sugar in our bloodstream, nakaka-cause ng diabetes and many other complications, kung ang glucose o blood sugar ay coins, then starch is a paper bill. So, kung 100 glucose, kung in the form of simple sugar, yung mga simple sugar na halimbawa would be brown sugar, would be white table sugar na white, and honey. Those are simple sugars. So kung sila, matatamis yan. They are in coins. Okay? But if they are in the form of starch, so yung complex form, yung parang buo, paper bill, you will actually not be able to taste them as sweet. Kasi nga, buo pa sila. Just like coins, Yung coins, kapag hawakan mo, mararamdaman mo yung bigat, mararamdaman mo yung sound ng coins when you try to hold them. At yung bigat ng 100 peso coins is sobrang bigat kung titingnan mo as compared to 100 peso bill na parang ang gaan lang, but you know they are actually the same. So it's the same thing with our food, with our carbohydrates. If we eat starch in the form of patatas, kamote, kanin, tinapay, and marami pang iba, noodles, pasta, yun ay paper bills when it comes to our blood glucose. So, yung isang maliit na kamote, maliit na kamote is actually equivalent to 5 kutsarita ng asukal. Isang pandesal is equivalent to 4 teaspoons, 4 na kutsarita ng asukal. Isang cup ng kanin is equivalent to, kahit pa brown rice pa yan, kahit pa red rice pa yan, is equivalent to at least 10 teaspoons of white sugar. So sa mga merong diabetic patients in their families, kung kayo ay nagwa-wonder why kahit pa hindi na sila kumakain ng mga matatamis na pagkain and still yung blood sugar nila ay sobrang taas pa din, try to look at their food intake. Baka nasa kanin, baka nasa french fries, baka nasa pandesal, or meron pang isang paborito ang mga diabetics, oatmeal. Try to check their oatmeal intake. And that is why low carb is generally safe for everyone. Because eto talaga yung natural na pagkain natin, and when you stick to proper low carb, hindi tataas yung inyong blood sugar even after eating. Kahit tapos ka ng kumain, hindi pa rin mag-spike yung iyong blood sugar. And it is something na hindi makapaniwala yung maraming diabetics because for the longest time, it's already expected na after eating, tataas at mag-shoot up yung kanilang blood sugar. Kaya nga ginagawa ng karamihan ay wag na lang mag-check so that hindi na nila alam kung gaano kataas yung kanilang blood sugar. So generally, yes, it is safe for kids, for pregnant women, for breastfeeding women. Low carb, marami ang definition, but just lowering the carbohydrates to an average of 50 grams of carbohydrates in a day is generally safe and actually can do us more benefits than harm. When it is done the right way, hindi kailangan mag-worry ng mga side effects. And how can it be done the right way? You just stick to the safe list plus, meron tayong plus dyan. Safe list plus salt. Kailangan natin ng asin. For those who are starting low carb without increasing their intake of salt, most likely, mararamdaman nyo yung iba't ibang mga symptoms. So, isa sa pinaka-common symptoms and also concerned na kailangan natin dapat munang siguraduhin before we go into low carb and fasting. The other concern would be hypoglycemia. Baka magka-hypoglycemia tayo. The only ones who are prone to hypoglycemia are those na merong mga iniinom na gamot to lower their blood sugar. So mostly diabetics, most especially yung mga insulin dependent na. So we are not saying na kapag ikaw ay insulin dependent na ay wala ng pag-asa and you are already contraindicated sa paglo-low carb. No, good news. We've had so many community members especially ng ating low carb and fasting masterclass for diabetes. Marami na po yung na-wean off na from insulin. We have patients who's already 80 years old, 75 years old, and they did it on their own at yung iba with the support of their children, of their family members. And of course, they work with a low-carb doctor or their physician. At ngayon ay they are already insulin-free. And to think they've been on insulin for 20 years, 30 years, and still, pwede palang ma-reverse yon. But it should be done the proper and guided way. Kasi as much as insulin is good for lowering the blood sugar kapag kumakain ka ng high carb, but the body, it's simply so complicated na hindi mo talaga matatansya how high you will go on your glucose at kung gaano karaming insulin yung ibibigay mo. And usually, yung nangyayari parate, especially sa mga type 1 diabetics, those patients na pinanganak na walang functioning pancreas, they have this highs and lows. So, kakain sila ng recommended na food for diabetics, which is basically 60 to 70% carbohydrates, and then their blood sugar will shoot up at mag-inject sila ng insulin and it will go deep and then mag-hypoglycemia na sila and then they will eat another again. Meron silang mga emergency candies, emergency sugar candies, soft drinks, juices na kapag ininom nila, magsa-spike ulit but they are in the constant highs and lows. At yun yung pinakadelikado sa lahat when it comes to producing target and organ damage. So, ang pagkakaroon ng mga complications of diabetes are actually mostly, aside from perpetual na mataas na blood sugar, is actually the highs and lows of their blood sugar. Kaya dapat maintain ito in the normal level. So, if you are not taking any of those medications, there's actually no fear of hypoglycemia. Kahit naka-fasting ka pa, because your body will just create its own blood sugar through the process of gluconeogenesis. Meron tayong proseso sa ating liver na activated the moment na nararamdaman ng ating katawan that we are not consuming the usual amount of glucose that we are used to consuming. At kapag na-detect yan ng katawan natin, automatic it will activate gluconeogenesis. So yung unang part ng gluconeogenesis, yung unang substrate o yung ingredient ng paggawa ng glucose ay nanggagaling muna sa ating glycogen. So, ating glycogen is a storage form of glucose para din siyang starch, but yung starch kasi sa plant kingdom yon. But for us, animal kingdom, for us humans, yung ating papel na parang papel na pera sa glucose. So, our paper bill when it comes to our glucose is in the form of glycogen. So, ang gagawin ng ating katawan the moment na nadedetect niya na wala ka ng kinakain carbs. So, say for example, today, after 15 hours, 16 hours na last intake mo ng kanin or any carbohydrate, your body will now start to break down your glycogen store sa inyong liver, and that is enough to fuel you for 1 day and even for 2 days. It depends on your activity. And then, kapag wala na yan, it will actually start by 18 hours, your body will start on ketosis. So ano yung ketosis? So it's the breakdown of fats at gagawin nitong energy. Kasi akala natin glucose is the only source of energy. But glucose is not yet energy. Kailangan pa ito ma-convert into another form of energy, and that is called ATP. So, adenosine triphosphate. So, adenosine triphosphate is our ultimate energy currency. And ang adenosine phosphate po ay pwedeng manggaling sa taba. In fact, for every molecule of glucose, makakakuha ka lang ng 2 to 4 ATPs. Whereas for every gram of fat molecule, ang makukuha mong ATP dyan, alam mo ba kung gaano karami? Up to 32 ATPs. So, ganun po karami yung energy. That's why fats is considered energy dense. And para sa mga nagda-diet the typical way, they consider fat as kailangan i-avoid para hindi ka mag-build up ng fats. But what they don't know is that ang fats ay pwedeng ma-convert into energy as long as walang nagbablock dito. At yung nagbablock dito ay ang insulin. So, insulin hormone, tumataas yan kapag kumakain tayo mostly ng mataas sa carbohydrates. To some extent also protein, but in general, it is the carbohydrate that will really spike it so high na it will stop fat burning. So, anong ibig sabihin yan? Ang taba ay pwedeng ma-convert into energy. Hindi natin kailangang katakutan yung pagkain ng matataba because that will actually fuel us. Kung kayo ay naglo-low carb, tinanggal nyo na yung kanin, tinanggal nyo na yung ating bread and yung mga pasta and other root crops and fruits kasi nga alam yung low carb na yan. But if you feel na parati kayong nangihina, wala kayong energy, yung feeling of hypoglycemia is actually not really hypoglycemia, especially kung wala kayong iniinom na gamot. But it could just be lack of electrolytes in the form of salt and sometimes potassium and magnesium. But generally, kung kulang yung kinakain yung fats, that might be the cause kung bakit kayo nanghihina, because your body is not getting enough of its energy source, especially if payat na kayo. But for those na meron pang fats to lose, then you can be happy. Kung kaya nyo yung low carb and fasting at the same time, you can be reassured na yung taba na kakailanganin ng katawan mo can just be supplied by your own fat stores. So yung nasa bilbil, nasa bewang, nasa balakang, those can fuel you. 1 kilo lang ng taba sa inyong katawan, that is already equivalent to, so 1 kilo times 9,000 kilocalories divided by 2, mga nasa 4.5 days of fasting na yan. If you will fast for, if kahit hindi ka kakain ng kahit anong may calories for 4 days and half, then that is just 1 kilogram of pure fats in your body when it comes to calories. Okay, marami pang other biochemical changes and reactions that's going on. But generally, if kayo ay merong 2,000 calories of energy needs in a day, na kung kukunin mo yan sa taba, that is just 1 kilo. So nasa 2.2 pounds lang ang mawawala when it comes to pure fat loss. And hypoglycemia, again, is not something that you should worry about if you are not taking any medicine. And if you are making sure na enough yung electrolyte intake ninyo. Okay? But of course, for those na meron ng iniinom na gamot, na alam natin marami na ngayon yung may iniinom na gamot, because I think walang kahit sinong Pilipino na walang kilalang may diabetes. That is how rampant yung diabetes ngayon sa ating bansa, and even all over the world, that we have this stigma that it's now normal. Parang normal na lang. When in fact, few years ago, minsan ka lang makakakita ng mga taong may diabetes. Now, it's just a norm. Parang swerte ka kung ikaw ay 40 years old na, 50 years old na at wala pang diabetes o iniinom na gamot. When in fact, it should really be that way. We are not meant to be dependent on medications. Anyway, for those na meron ng iniinom na gamot and might need some guidance, kasi kailangan pong safe ito, because hypoglycemia can really be dangerous. Pwede talagang malagay sa peligro ng inyong buhay if you will have a dangerous hypoglycemia, nahihilo, natutumba. The risk for fall and fractures is also serious. So best to consult with your physician. We also have low carb doctors available online. Just message our admins, and we hope you will be guided by our LCF Masterclass for Diabetes. Meron tayong ongoing class niyan. It's been going on for a year now, and we are so glad na yung community natin in LCF Masterclass for diabetes management ng ating LCF way, it's getting stronger and bigger, and we are so happy na sobrang dami na po ang nakaranas ng remission. And that is 1 year of no medications, being weaned from medications, and at the same time, their blood sugar, their HbA1c are within normal limits, and also a very good blood picture, very healthy lipid profile, walang sign of inflammation, CRP level, ESR level, all low, yung kanilang CBC are all better, and even their urinalysis and kidney function are also improved. So if you want to be a part of that, message nyo lang po yung admins natin so that you can be part of that exclusive group. So yan, the next thing, the third thing that others are concerned about, and we need to ensure also before starting our low carb and fasting, yung isang common question is, Doc, baka magka-ulcer ako sa pagpa-fasting. So, ulcer, hyperacidity. Remember, ang number one trigger of acid secretion is food. So actually, when you stop eating food, your body will just naturally stop producing acid. It's just that sa sobrang tagal na merong mga inindang sakit sa tiyan, they are feeling like they have hyperacidity. Yes, eating food is like a quick fix. But mind you, sa mga merong hyperacidity, it's only a matter of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and an hour, at babalik na naman yung sakit na yon after eating food. It's because they didn't know na yung pinaka-cause ng paghapdi ng kanilang tiyan is actually not really the acid that's being secreted. Kasi yung tiyan natin perpetually regular yan na it's really acidic. Mas acidic pa yung pinoproduce nating acid sa ating tiyan than pure lemon or vinegar. Mas acidic pa yon. However, hindi nabubutas, hindi nagkakaroon ng ulcer ang ating tiyan if there is intact when it comes to the mucosal protective lining. So meron yung thin film so that hindi makakain ng ating gastric acid yung ating bituka, 'di ba? If you are fond of eating intestines, innards, di ba? It's still the same bituka. How come na kung kakain natin yan, nadadigest natin, but yung sarili nating bituka na nandyan ay hindi nadadigest? It's because there is a protective layer. And that protective layer, yun yung nawawala. Yun yung nadadestroy when our body is inflamed. Okay? So inflammation will reduce the mucosal lining, and when there is break in that mucosal protective layer, doon na nanunuot yung acid, and it can cause hyperacidity, ulceration, and pain in our, tawag natin dyan, epigastric area. So, epigastric area, kung eto yung tiyan mo, you divide it into 9 quadrants. So, yan, yung sa upper part dyan, that's your epigastric area. So, sa gitna and ilalim ng inyong rib cage, that's the epigastric area. And if you have that, what do you need to do? Simple lang, okay? That is very simple. You don't need to fast. Kung hindi pa kaya, huwag pwersahin. Whenever you are hungry, kumain kayo. Just stick to low carb. Yun lang. And in 3 days time, you will see, as long as you will stick to the safe list. Every time nagugutom kayo, kumain ng itlog. And after 1 to 2 hours, if meron pa rin kirot ng tiyan that you feel like hyperacidity, kumain kayo ng pork chop o steak or fried chicken or lechon manok or lechon for that matter. So anything in our safe list, try to enjoy the carnivore, the meat, because yun talaga yung natural food natin. And for others, ay pwede rin kumain ng vegetables, but be mindful because as much as it is not a common knowledge, we are now seeing na marami pala sa atin ang intolerant to vegetables. Kung meron kayong mga naglo-low carb na kayo for so long and you feel na parang meron pa ring mga aches and pains, parati pa rin kayong nahihilo or mas pumapayat kayo kahit ayaw nyo nang mas pumayat pa, then try to look at your food intake. Baka nasobrahan kayo sa vegetables. Because as much as vegetables is generally safe and it's within our safe list, but hindi rin siya ganon ka-required. Okay? So, as much as gusto natin, we are accommodating everyone, and we know that there are low-carb vegetarians. There's a way to be a low-carb vegan. But with our practice, with our experience, mas nakikita natin ngayon that many are actually thriving with minimal intake of vegetables. And as long as, of course, your needed vitamins and minerals, you are getting from variety of meat sources. So, wag lang puro chicken, wag lang puro pork, okay? Mag-experiment din kayo. You can add, yun ang sinasabi natin, at least 1 matchbox. So, or isang atay, chicken na atay per day, or 100 grams of that in a week. You can already get your needed vitamins and minerals in those sources na very natural. Hindi nyo na kailangan uminom ng B complex because meat, proteins, it's very, very rich in natural na B vitamins na baka mag-vitaminosis na kayo. Sobra na kayo sa B vitamins if iinom pa kayo ng vitamin B complex. When you are going to consume more on the meats, seafood, and eggs, you can see na yung usual na concerns ng pangangayayat, ng panghihina, ng paghe-hair fall, drying of skin, and ano pa ba. Those concerns are usually from lack of enough adequate na food intake, and usually coming from natural fats and good protein. So ulceration will not happen. So yung technique dyan, the idea behind this one is kung meron ng ulcer, you let it heal. Okay? The best way to heal is actually fasting, but I know it's so hard and it's so stressful na alam natin na maraming nagkakaroon ng ulcer are actually the worriers, yung mga anxious, yung parating namomroblema ng problema. Ang problema ay nandyan sa lahat, but kung problemahin mo ang isang problema ng bonggang-bongga, then all the more mas magiging stressful ka. And that, yes, that can lead to ulcer formation because as much as majority of the inflammation in our body comes from our food intake, marami rin na yung inflammation nila sa katawan ay nanggaling sa kanilang isipan. So it's the mental stress that's causing ulcer formation. Hindi yan gawa-gawa lamang. There is what we call as stress ulcers. Cushing's and Cushing's and curlings ulcer from burn and from other mental problems, mental anxiety, it can cause ulcer. So that's why kung kayo ay isang type ng anxious, worrier, parating na mga problema, try to think of something else, something more positive. One cure for that is for every one negative thing na pumapasok sa isipan niyo, try to think of at least 3 things na kailangan yung pasalamatan in life so that ma-counter yung negative impact na yon. Instead of focusing on the feeling, on the negative feeling, the discomfort, the pain, try to focus on the other good things when it comes to your journey. Like, how would you feel na you are feeling lighter, you can feel more focused, you have more energy to do things, hindi ka na hinihingal sa pag-akyat ng stairs. All those little things are something to be thankful about. And when you focus on gratitude, when you focus on the positive things, you will see that your healing, even with your ulcer, will be even faster. So, yan yung pinaka-importante when it comes to those concerns na merong ulcer, hindi nyo kailangang problemahin yan. Just eat low carb. And at any time you like. Hindi nyo kailangan mag-fasting. Fasting, remember, will just come naturally. We only have like around 2 weeks of fasting na protocol na after 2 weeks of doing low carb, marami yung fairly adapted na to do fasting. But generally, sobrang dami na hindi na kailangan i-time, hindi na kailangan i-monitor because after 3 days of low carb, after a week of low carb, their body goes on natural fasting. And when it comes to fasting, we are now down to our fourth na kailangan natin siguraduhin when it comes to this way of life. Yung isang concern ng iba, especially with fasting, Doc, hindi ba kami masisiraan ng bait kapag hindi kami kumakain? Kasi marami na yon. Ano yon in the vernacular, mapapas mo. So, if mapapas mo and then masisiraan daw ng bait, and it's something na concern ng iba kasi maraming mga haka-haka, especially in the provinces, di ba? Merong mga nagsasabing nasiraan niya ng bait kasi nalipasan ng gutom. And is that a valid concern? Not in low-carb and fasting lifestyle. Kasi kung meron mang nasiraan ng bait ng walang pagkain, it was because of starvation. Forced yon na hindi ng pagkain. Gusto niya ng kumain but the food is not being given to them, kaya nagkaroon sila ng anxiety, nervous breakdown, and all of that. But fasting is different. Paano nagkaiba yung fasting sa starvation? Fasting is deliberate, conscious decision. Ikaw mismo yung nag-decide na hindi ka muna kakain ngayon even if the food is available. Kasi if you are not going to do it deliberately, yung hindi ikaw in control, that's the problem. At nagkakaroon ito ng anxiety, nagka-cause ng problem in our mental health that we can feel na tayo ay hindi in control ng ating buhay. But opposite to that, on the far end, fasting is actually very empowering and can even improve mood, anxiety, and other mental na mga challenges. Stress, depression, bipolar disorder, sobrang dami na po yung na-improve when they incorporated low carb and fasting. Of course, nutrient-dense kind of low carb. Maybe pag-uusapan natin ulit. I think it's been a while kung yung last nating talk on the nutrient-dense low carb. Let's put that on our list of topics na pag-uusapan natin. But for now, know that when you focus on nutrient-dense kind of low carb at kayo mismo ay nagte-take charge ng inyong fasting schedule, it is very, very empowering and it can even help those na merong mga worries and anxieties and psychological na mga pangangailangan when it comes to getting that sense of control in your system. Like for me, I've been very, very thankful ever since I've discovered low carb and fasting because food is always a yes for me. So the moment that I was able to say no to food, it made me feel empowered na alam ko, kaya ko nang gawin ang kahit ano. I can let go of anything or I can push with anything because one of the hardest thing to say no to, because it's human nature to always say yes to food, ay kaya nating baliktarin. We go beyond our instinct. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Because instinct, it's already embedded in us, but to be able to go beyond, na hindi ka lang madadala ng kung ano lang yung instinct mo, that is the power of the human brain na capable tayong lahat. So yon, hindi ka masisiraan ng bait when it comes to proper low carb and fasting. You don't need to force yourself into fasting, but if ever you need some guidance into it, meron tayong books dyan, but we will have a second edition soon. So kindly wait for that second edition. If hindi man kayo makapaghintay, just check out in Shopee. Meron dyan, Perfect at Last Weight, Perfect Last Health, and Perfect at Last Wellness. Tatlong book po yan natin sa ating Perfect at Last series. Yung first na Perfect at Last Weight is just termed as for weight, but it's actually going to provide you with a general healthy, safe, therapeutic fasting protocols for applications in many things, not just weight loss. So, yun yung mga bagay na dapat natin siguraduhin sa low carb and fasting. Yun yung I will try to see kung meron pang mga may additional concerns dito. So far, mga spammers lang yung nagko-comment. So, I hope po ay makaka-answer din yung iba. So, titingnan natin. Let's see. For those who are asking how to join, just message na po yung admins natin sa page, okay? And they will get back to you. Ilang kutsara po, o kutsarita po ng salt ang ilalagay sa 1 liter of water? So, it's up to you. Just 1 teaspoon, isang kutsarita ng salt in a day, that's already okay. So, kung ano yung matotolerate mong, ano yun? Alat. Okay? If kaya mo yung 1 teaspoon of salt in 1 liter, so it's okay. At least you're already done with your minimum 1 teaspoon of salt in a day. But for me, I think that is too salty. So just a pinch, enough lang na hindi masyadong malasahan. And then I usually put my salt from food. So yun yung mas gusto ko. So yung food is my go-to sa ating source of salt. So, but for you, if you want to drink it up, then pwedeng-pwede yan. Up to half 1 teaspoon to 1 liter. Pero yung iba, I think they're good with half teaspoon to 1 liter, and you can just multiply it to 2 liters. So up to 2 liters. So that's why when it comes to our electrolyte drinks, maraming iba-iba. Because what we are referring in that is hindi yan fix, okay? You should include your preference and also yung ating RDA, yung recommended daily allowance natin sa sa ating electrolyte needs in a day. So, meron muna akong isi-send dito na video para malagay natin when we finish today's topic. Okay, so tingnan natin kung meron pa. At sa mga nagtatanong ng ating mga binibenta daw ng mga nuts, mixed nuts, at meron pa atang mga gamot, meron pa mga electric fan, basta anything that you see, try to look kung yun ba talaga ay ating page, because most likely that is not our page, okay? So, John Paul Revita, I had gallbladder removed. Ano po ang dapat gawin? Continue LCIF. Enroll ako sa masterclass. Thank you po, sir, for enrolling in our masterclass. But I believe baka nasa 14-day health optimization masterclass ka. I suggest you upgrade to our gallbladder and post-cholecystectomy masterclass. Nandun yon yung ating step-by-step kung paano ma-incorporate yung proper low-carb and fasting for those na wala ng gallbladder. And hindi ka po nag-isa, and don't worry, there is a good and better way for you to enjoy still yung ating this way of life, low carb and fasting, na kahit pa kayo ay wala ng gallbladder. So, titingnan natin dyan. Meron na akong i-upload for this.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like.
Yan. So, that's our video. Meron na akong ilalagay. Oh, hindi pala kasya. Okay, so more question? We can see, I think we still have a little time before ako mag-meeting. So, I'm so happy. Thank you. Sige, may lymphoma cancer po ako. Pwede po ba sa akin ang itlog? So, lymphoma is a type of cancer in the lymph, and to just avoid egg to or to just ask for eggs as food na only concern for cancer is so unfair. Okay? I think meron tayong video about that. But there's actually no study indicating that egg alone is bad or is damaging. Okay? Egg is simply protein and fats. Okay? And our cancer, the cancers in general, ano yung primary fuel nila, primary food nila, it's actually not proteins and fats, but it's mostly glucose. Yun nga yung concept of PET scan. Okay? So, yung scan na nag-inject sila ng mga glucose that are radioactive glucose. So, para makita nila which part of the body, which organs in the body na grabe yung glucose activity. So, yung hyper activity ng glucose metabolism. And it's from the fact that the highly metabolic na cells, which would include cancer cells, are using glucose as energy. So that's why, although maraming aspects ang management of cancers and tumors, and that's one of those things that we outline in our LCF masterclass for cancers and tumors that I hope you can join, is the knowledge that before you concern yourself of avoiding meat, avoiding red meat, avoiding eggs, avoiding seafood, you should first look into the amount of carbohydrates that you are eating. Okay? Because it might be, if especially bago kayo ma-diagnose, before learning about low carb and fasting, try to look at the amount of carbohydrates and sugar that you've been eating. Especially sa mga taong hindi masyadong nagpuput on ng extra weight. Hindi tumataba, hindi lumalaki yung tiyan, but they keep on eating sugar, milk tea, and soft drinks, fraps, kahit hindi sila, and they are been doing it na hindi lumalaki. And then, all of a sudden, you will find them being diagnosed with diabetes, may fatty liver, may gallstones, may allergy, may asthma. And yun nga, pwedeng-pwede yung cancers and tumors, both benign and malignant. So, itlog in general is okay, just like meat is okay, but never to pair it up with high carbohydrate inflammatory foods. Okay? Itlog, if you can find organic, free range, walang antibiotics, and then you cook it either poached in water, boiled, or in coconut oil. Or kung gusto ka mag-pure carnivore, you can use lard or taba ng baboy. So, yummy. And yon, I think that's it. Maraming salamat, everybody. I hope you get to be a part of our
Watching.
of our masterclass soon. Fasting is not required sa simula. It's not required. You have to start with low carb first kung gusto mo maging sustainable yung inyong lifestyle. But low carb and fasting go together. Because when you do low carb the proper way, makikita mo, fasting will just come naturally. So it's not required, but it also comes naturally. It's like automatic. Na after you do low carb the proper way, you will just surprise yourself na sobrang dali na lang mag-fasting. And it's not required, but it becomes part of the process. So I hope you will also enjoy low carb and together with the benefits of fasting. So yon, maraming salamat everybody. We have daily videos and this is our schedule. Yan. So thank you so much. Maraming salamat. Hope to see you again soon. Stay tuned po sa announcement natin for our December activity. Bye everyone. for watching. If you like this video, you can see more contents in our YouTube and Facebook channels at Dr. Josephine Grace Rojo and Dr. Josephine Grace Rojo Tan, respectively. For those who wish to be guided, we have an ongoing structured learning program where we will teach you how to adapt a low-carb and fasting lifestyle for healing specific modern-day lifestyle diseases like diabetes, hypertension, cancer, fatty liver, PCOS, GERD, and many more. You can send an email to our admins or send a DM in our inbox. I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much. Stay low-carb, stay safe. Bye!